Midnight vlog time. I think it actually is midnight. I don't even know what time is it. 11:50. Generally, I'm kind of a big reader. Like, I like to read. Harry Potter was definitely my childhood gateway drug to literacy. And my goal is always 20 books a year. I average a little higher than that, like the 25 to 35 range. This year, I did not read one book. Not one. I'm not even joking. Like, I started like 6 of them, didn't finish any of them. This was the year that like I set a whole bunch of goals. And usually I set a whole bunch of goals and I'm like bam, bam, bam. Like I just check them off that list. And this year I set a whole bunch of goals and didn't do a whole lot of anything. I think I achieved like 3 goals this year because I got pregnant, which is cool because that was one of my goals. I got pregnant. The 20 book goal did not happen in addition to a lot of other things. And so it is December 6th, and I am bringing to you Mount to be Read, which is this like fabulous stack of library books that I am trying to complete before the end of the year, at least a couple of them. It doesn't have to be like all of them. Some of them look a little more interesting than others. Some of them are rereads, and I just want to read like 2 or 3 of them. That would make me happy. The one book that I absolutely wanted to read is not in this pile because I checked it out from the library and then didn't read it in time, and it's new, so there was like a big long waiting list and I couldn't renew it, and so now I have to wait till it comes back around again. But that book is The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman, which is the prequel to Practical Magic, if you've heard of that or read that. But it was kind of a big deal that she wrote a prequel to it and that it came out this past month. So I'm a little disappointed that I didn't make time to deal with that, but I've been really busy like interviewing people to hire to work for me, and that's exhausting, so I didn't read anything. So I want to preface this by saying that I am like almost embarrassingly addicted to young adult literature. Especially sci-fi, fantasy, dystopian kind of stuff. I did not read Divergent. I did read Twilight.
I love The
I did
Hunger
not like
Games.
to give you like a spectrum of where I fall on young adult book series, but I would be embarrassed about it if there weren't such like a huge community of people on Instagram and stuff who love young adult literature and are probably my age, maybe. I don't know. It's cool to be almost 30 and read like teen books. It's fine. So a lot of these are young adult books, but we're gonna work with it. So the first one in this pile I actually started, I read 1 chapter, and that's about as far as I got. This is Freaks by Amanda Hocking. Apparently this person wrote some other stuff that was really, really popular. I've never read any of her stuff, but I'm really, really into like circus sideshows and if you've heard of another Alice Hoffman book that I absolutely loved was the Museum of Extraordinary Things, which was like another sort of like sideshow kind of, I don't know, but this is about sideshow, I don't like to say freaks because I feel like that's really offensive. Like this is 2017, we don't call people sideshow freaks anymore. Like we realize that people have medical conditions or like, physical anomalies and things that are not freakism. But this book is called Freaks. It's about sideshows and psychics and some kind of looming terror. So I'm pretty excited to read this. It's really right up my alley and it sounded cool. The next one is a reread, but literally I read this 2 years ago, and this book has like a special, special place in my heart. And honestly, it should be on my favorite shelf. I just haven't been able to find it anywhere because it's old. It's from the 80s, which makes me old too. But it's from the 80s. It's kind of like a strange fantasy, like obscure fantasy novel. I picked it up, I read it on like a recommended reading list somewhere or something, but this book is so, so good. So if you can find it at your library, You can get it on Amazon. I just haven't ordered off there. I was hoping to like run into it at Barnes& and Noble, and they just don't have it. This is The War for the Oaks by Emma Bull. Um, this is about rock and roll and fairies and like magical fairy wars and betrayal and a really hot guy that turns into a dog, and it's just such a good book, and it's so fun. I love when someone can write an urban fantasy that really is believable and fun and lighthearted but still like tugs at your emotions. Like this book made me cry. um yeah, so check out The War for the Oaks. I just wanted, I don't know, I have this and I have another reread because I was kind of like, the weather was getting cold and I just wanted to curl up under an Afghan with a hot chocolate and read stuff I had already read and knew that I loved. So this is my December reread in addition to one of these other books that I'm going to show you. The next one on my list is something from, what year was this published? I kept seeing it on Instagram like a while ago, like this was big for a while. And everybody was making a big fuss about it and writing about it on their book blogs. This is from 2015. Oh my gosh, this is like 2 years old already. But this is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Aveyard? Somebody want to fill me in? I like it if it's Aveyard because that's cool. It rhymes with graveyard. Yeah, it's getting late. I don't even really know what this is about, but they were making a big deal about it, and it's about some kind of rival bloodlines or kingdoms or rival something, and it sounded cool, and I liked the cover. I know you're not supposed to judge a book by the cover, but I do all the time, and there's nothing like good cover art. So I'm definitely going to try and read The Red Queen, and I would say those 3 books are my top 3 that I would really love to squeeze in before the new year. But I picked up a couple other things. Honestly, I'm just like on a fairy kick lately. I wrote a fantasy novel. Yes, it was also a young adult novel last year for NaNoWriMo and finished it. And it was about fairies and war and witches who are not really witches. And I'm not very good at summarizing things, but it was cool. And I got these books, Fairy Wars and Fae. I don't know what they're about or if they're any good, but look, battle between, oh god, I'm really bad. Like I forget the camera is backwards, so it switched. But you know, fairy wars, battle between dark and light. I like when fairies fight wars. I find that appealing in a novel. And finally, a reread that is very dear to my heart because this book was so whimsical and magical and just like tugged on my heart, and it's by my favorite author, and I didn't think I was gonna like it, and then I got to the end and I was like, oh my god, this is beautiful. All my feels, and I'm probably gonna cry because I'm pregnant and like everything makes me cry. My husband's upstairs watching Doctor Who without me, and there's like one episode in series 9 that I was like, can't watch that without me. This is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. If you have never read Neil Gaiman, I don't know that this is necessarily the book I would start with, but it wouldn't be a bad choice. It's a very quick read. This is definitely one of his like slimmer novels. If I was going to recommend a Neil Gaiman book to start with, I'd recommend Neverwhere, only because one, it was the first one that I ever read, and also I think it's like a good introduction to his style and the kind of worlds and characters that he builds. It's like really strange, but it's not so strange as like Fragile Things or some of the stories in Smoke and Mirrors, and it's not so dense and intellectually challenging, I guess, as American Gods. I don't know why I think that, I don't know if intellectually challenging is the right word, but I just feel like there's so much, if you're like not up on mythology and religion and theology and all of these good spiritual things, there's so much you miss the first time you read through American Gods, and I feel like it's such a dense book for Neil Gaiman. So I definitely recommend Neverwhere as the first one you read. This is like a good first or second choice. I love The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I'm so ready to cry over this book. So if I could get 4 in, this is definitely it, and then like the fairy books at the end. So if you are also a reader, if you have a book blog, please link me in the comments. Please tell me what you're reading before the end of the year. Berate me for not reading anything this year because that's terrible. And wish me luck reading more in 2018.